And as we get into this conversation this hour, two people should have been with us in studio. One of them is Simon Malenya, is the technical lead advocacy and treaty bodies with IMLU, and joins us this morning. We're talking about remembering the fallen Gen Zs, a quest for justice. Good morning to you, Simon. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Karibu sana.
Here today.
Thank you for being with us. You should have been in the company of Antony Karumba, who is the president of the One Tribe, One Nation Gen Z movement. He's in his home at the moment, and for some reason is unable to leave because there are gentlemen, ladies, people who came to his house this morning, and we can say that, came to his house this morning, and he's not quite sure if to then be able to leave the house and whether he's safe to do that. He did give a presser yesterday talking about some of the matters in terms of a quest for justice, but we'll carry on the conversation and see if we can have him to talk with him a bit. But before we do that, Simon, we'd love to have you interpret today's proverb. Dennis will tell you where it's from.
Yes. The proverb is from Kenya, from the coastal part of the country. And let's just talk about the coast. White sandy beaches, a marine park, if you want to eat the proper biryani or pilau, you go to the coastal region. If you go further down to Lamu, the ancient Swahili culture is there. It is known to be the only town or a locale, the only county without vehicles. Why? Because of its ancestral architecture. Beautiful places you can go to this country, including the second highest point in Africa, Mount Kenya, right here in this country. And Nairobi, ukitaka kuona wanyama, it's just Nairobi National Park, the only national park within a city. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. The proverb comes from the coast. Pesa za urongo zina mwisho. In English, money made from lies has an end. How would you interpret it?
Personally, I would say that everything that comes without without a cost, without pain, without it flies off. It flies off at the opportune time because it's not grounded on anything that is real. So it will definitely fly off. Yes.
Well said, well interpreted. Kila mtu afanye kazi apate pesa yake.
Yes.
Indeed. So there's the commemoration of the Gen Z protests, unfortunately, that ended in death for over 60 people in 2024 comes up tomorrow. And there seems to still be a quest for justice. From an IMLU perspective, a point of view, what quest is this?
As you say, it's a quest for justice. But beyond that, again, it's a quest for accountability and healing. You may realize that 2 days ago, I think when IPO were releasing their statistics for the cases for the Gen Z protests, and they were saying that out of those 60 cases, they have only managed to have 3 cases in the court, and only 1 case out of those 3 has been resolved. So you'll definitely say that there are over 57 cases that are still lying outside there that have not been resolved legally. So the quest for justice, of course, still remains elusive in that particular sense. But more fundamentally is the issue of accountability and healing. That all those cases have got perpetrators behind them who are largely state operatives, especially in the security sector. So we'll find that the quest for accountability still remains elusive. It has not been achieved yet, and yet most of these perpetrators are still known. Fundamentally, again, is when it comes to the victims and survivors, is the question of healing. Of course, they have to put an end to this suffering that they have gone through. They have lost their family members. Most were injured. Some were even unfortunately disappeared. So the quest for healing is still outside there. These people have not, they're not satisfied as yet, because they do not know where their kins are. Some who are injured have not gone through that process of seeking justice through the legal processes. So healing still remains elusive, and that psychological or trauma is still in place. So for now, much still needs to be done in order to support those victims and survivors and their families.
Malenya, when you look at the quest for justice, Even in restorative justice that you talk about, there is an entire process that ought to be followed. We've decided to go for the last bit of it, which is compensation. And today, even as Kenyans plan to go to the streets tomorrow to commemorate the fallen heroes, the hidden message behind it is we want justice delivered, because lives were taken that ought not to have been taken. Kenyans were killed by demonstrating, which is their constitutional right. Are we seeing any sense of remorse, any sense of responsibility being taken from those that killed?
Unfortunately not. One of the tenets of reparation is a promise of non-repetition. Mm-hmm. That you have to say outside there that we agree that this particular mistakes happened, but we are saying that this is not going to happen again. And you may wish again to refer to 2-3 days ago when the president was somehow giving an apology when the Kenya National Commission were presenting this report. Was given an apology and saying that you see, this is not going to happen again. But as you have rightly put it, one of the persons who is supposed to be on the studio with me here today is not here. The reason that he is not allowed to come here and air his views and his information, and yet those are personal rights that are guaranteed within the Constitution. We must note that the right to protest is a constitutional guarantee. It's a constitutional guarantee.
It's not a favor.
It is not a favor that someone gives you. And you see, if people of Kenya wants to commemorate through a very peaceful and an armed protest, then it's allowed constitutionally. And there is no need for the state operatives to be able to put roadblocks or barriers as to the Kenyans who will wish to protest peacefully and unarmed. So we note, regrettably, that we are not in a learning curve. We are not in a learning curve, that we have not learned from the past as Kenyans, as leaders, and said that, fine, we made a mistake here by not allowing this protest, by harming Kenyans who are protesting. But we have learned from that. And even as we go through the process of reparations through compensation, as they say, but then we give Kenyans their right. That we are saying that it's the right for them to go outside there and protest as long as they do it peacefully and unarmed. But if we are still curtailing that right, then we haven't learned.
Okay. I'd like us to, at this point, so even as we continue to look into that, and to talk about the fact that these, rights they are guaranteed, they then must be lived out. But at the same time, there's been a lot of destruction. There's been a lot of killing. There's been a lot of loss. There's been a lot of injurious harm to lives. And then there still seems to be the continuous curtailing of these freedoms. Joining us on the line right now is Antony Karumba. He should have been here in the room this morning for some reason, which he's in a best position to explain to us. He's been locked up in his house. Antony. Hello, Antony.
Hello, mate.
Hello, Antony. Good morning. And how are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good.
Talk to us about why you're not here in the studio with us.
Well, first of all, let me begin by apologies. It was not intentional. First, I was woken up by some unknown men to me who raided my house.
They raided your house?
Yeah. Actually, they were forcing me to open the door, and they were so vicious. So that gave me some tension, and they were not able, or they were not even willing to disclose who they were. And some of them were just in hoods. Then outside, when I actually looked through the window, I could see a Subaru. So I couldn't tell whether they were the officers or who they were. So I can't tell whether it's the officers or who they are.
Well, I mean, your apology accepted is understood under these circumstances. But one thing that you've said at this point is that you're not sure who they are because they did not identify themselves?
Yeah, they couldn't identify themselves. But they stayed at my door for close to 2 hours, actually trying to force entrance. But when they saw I'm recording them, actually that's when they left my door. But still they are hanging around because I think it's some minutes ago it's when they have actually removed their car from my vicinity. I don't know, but they are still around because I could see them around with hoods. So I don't know who they are.
Antony, why would they be trying to force entry into your home, and why would they still be hanging out? Because, you were supposed to be here this morning at 9 o'clock. That means you would have wanted to leave maybe a couple of hours ago. Why would anybody at this point be essentially coming for you?
Well, first of all, as you know, I'm the president of the One Tribe, One Nation Gen Z movement. And we've been actually so vocal, and we've been out here showing solidarity with our comrades. And of course, even this week, since last week actually, we did a press giving our people directions in terms of the long-awaited commemoration that is tomorrow. So I'm suspecting probably that is what is in connection with their search for me.
You also gave a presser yesterday. What did you say? I mean, we heard, we know, but we'd like to come from you. What did you say that may have given anybody jitters yesterday?
Well, what we said actually is that there will be no protest tomorrow. And we were very specific because we are saying we cannot really celebrate our fallen by adding more fallen. So we are doing this at least to protect ourselves, because we have realized there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of even the threats you can hear even from some of the government officials, what they are issuing threats to the young people that if you show up in the streets, you will face the full force of law. And you see, that's the same thing they actually told us last time. We have seen right from 2024, every other protest that we have done as the Gen Z, right from 25th, Sabasaba, during, Ojwang's justice protest, every other time and every other protest, we have actually experienced killing. We have experienced brutality. So this time round, we really don't want to lose more lives as the Gen Zs, because you see, when we began this protest, it was actually within the policy of good governance, fighting corruption, fighting tribalism, fighting injustices, and advocating for transparency and accountability in leadership. But you see now, when we began this, we came as leaderless, we came as tribeless, we came as partyless and faithless. However, along the way, we have actually had and experienced like a hijack of some political people. Like this time round, you see the people who are announcing or who were actually purporting to be planning this even took the letter to the police, the Vigilance House, to inform them of this protest on our behalf. It was the political class. And you remember, us as the Gen Zs, we have always been clear that we are the movement is not for the politicians. The movement is not for a certain individual. The movement is a cause for good governance, and that means the movement is for the people. And the movement is the policies and principles that we as the Gen Zs believe in, of good governance and of corruption, accountability and transparency.
Karumba, want to ask the question, sorry to cut you short. When these individuals showed up at your premises, there has to be someone who granted them access to all the way to your house. So the security officers where you live, that would be your security, or the caretaker, were they informed? Have they told you exactly who those people told them they are?
Well, in my apartment, actually, the security lives at around is there the whole night until 6 a.m. in the morning. That's when they leave and exchange with the one for the day shift. But now the one for the day shift, I was told he was not there. So these guys, it's like when the security left, I haven't actually accessed the information on how they got entrance into the premise. But all I know is that they have been at my door for like 2 hours. Because what actually woke me up from sleep, it was mlango ilikuwa inapigwa mateke. And they were trying, like, they want to break the door. Fortunately or unfortunately, they were not able. So when they saw me recording, they left. So I can't really tell how but I'm actually trying to access the CCTV footage because we have the CCTV, and of course that will actually give me, it will actually open up what transpired or how they got in.
Okay, thanks for that, Anthony. If you just stay on the line for just a few minutes, because also we're in the studio with Simon, and just, of course, having this conversation because, I mean, you've all talked with each other before. Does this stop in any way? We're just going to hear from you first before we come to Simon so that we can, obviously let you go. Does this stop the resolve to come out and say that there must be justice, even as you commemorate, even as the nation commemorates tomorrow and beyond tomorrow? Does you now being holed up in your house, because from my understanding, it doesn't sound like you're leaving anytime soon. Does it stop the resolve in any way?
Well, as the Gen Zs in the spirit of oneness and within the confidence that the spirit of confidence that is in us, we are saying aluta continua, meaning our comrades that actually we lost since 2024, 2025, and even on Sabasaba and all those protests, those are our heroes, and therefore nobody can stifle the movement. Nobody can actually stop us or sell fear to us, thinking that actually we can stop. Because you can sometimes try to sabotage the revolutionaries, but you cannot stop the revolution. Meaning, these are just some of the things that they cannot really stop us from executing the fight for justice, the fight for accountability, the fight against corruption. That one, if they think maybe they can stop it by maybe selling fear to an individual or to all of us, they have done it again and again, but we are still existing. And that means the spirit is on, and we must commemorate our people, and of course still we insist they must serve justice to the families of the affected victims. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that, Anthony. We're going to let you go at this point, obviously, but thank you for being part of this conversation. I mean, you've given us the okay to go ahead and do that, and just to confirm that you're okay. Of course, we'll be touching base with you later on, and that you've very clearly stated what the word is about that. And even as we continue this conversation, we're going to ask you one thing, that we please ask that you stay safe, brother, and that we can keep talking through the day and find out how things are.
Sure.
Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
Asante. Be safe. Talk soon.
All right, thank you.
So even as we continue this, I mean, just for folks who are not really sure, Antony Karumba was going to be here with us in the studio to discuss this, and from his rendition of events this morning, he's been holed up in his house. He's not been able to get in. There are folks who are trying to break into his house earlier on, and that vehicle has been parked outside of his residence for a while now. Although it's no longer in the front of his house, it's relocated to somewhere else. Of course, because of the demands on justice. And Simon, even as we hear what we've heard from Antony this morning, it sounds like it flies in the face of some of the things that you were talking about earlier, whereby these freedoms must be guaranteed. They can be in the paper, but they must be guaranteed, so that Antony or Rebecca or Elizabeth or John can walk out of their house in the morning without fear of having been abducted or without fear of being challenged over something that they said which was in line with the freedom.
Yes, and perhaps that gives us a way of thinking that there are some of these constitutional guarantees or laws that fly perhaps in the face of some people that they really don't like them. That while those guarantees are there, they still hold on to some of these barbaric and dictatorial tendencies. And it's quite unfortunate because the number one standard of good leadership is adherence to the rule of law. And when you deliberately suspend the rule of law in the country, it definitely shows that there's a very high status of impunity within the country, that people could just ignore the law and say that this is how we want to run our things. And that simply says that if Kenyans are following the law and saying that my constitutional guarantees are the ABCD and I need to follow them, but you're saying that you cannot follow those constitutional guarantees, then it definitely means that something is not adding up, that something is not working. And our call, of course, is for the leadership, for the security personnel to adhere to the rule of law, allow Kenyans to enjoy their fundamental freedoms and rights as guaranteed within our statutes, within our constitution. And there's nothing as easy as that.
Does it look like it's getting easier or harder? Because, there are folks then who might want to join their voice, but then join their voice to this, or even but then are genuinely afraid. Because the reality of the matter is that the Constitution may say something, and it sounds like I'm saying something ludicrous, but the Constitution may say something, but the truth of the matter is that people are afraid, will not come out, will not speak up, even though they know fundamentally that something is right, because it could be Antony this morning, it could be somebody else tomorrow. How do you deal with that if somebody's actually afraid to speak up for something that they truly believe in?
And I believe that's intentional. It is intentional to spike this fear factor among Kenyans, among the citizens, and that is not right, because we are now clawing back on these constitutional guarantees that after 2010 that we had a period where people were guaranteed their freedoms and their rights, but then it reaches a point where, because you do not want to be accountable, most leaders do not want to be accountable, and the only thing that they now want to use is the spike of violence, the fear factor, using violence as a fear factor to say that you are not going to speak on this. And again, it comes to the question of good governance and accountability. That if you have leadership that is not ready to be accountable and to govern the country well, then all they will do is to clamp down on the freedoms of the people who are speaking out on some of these ills that happen within the country. And that is extremely unfortunate, and we are calling the leadership at least to follow the law, to be accountable, to govern the country well. And the only thing that we can do, the only way we can be able to see that is to allow people to go outside there, air their views, perhaps say that this is wrong, and then where can we be able to correct, as opposed to using violence as a means of silencing dissent or alternative voice.
And now there is the use of violence, and also there seems to be the issue of compensation. And the issue of compensation raises quite a number of concerns. That one, we are talking of victims, people either who have died, others are nursing injuries which are life-changing, and others have disappeared. And the significant others have no way of telling where their person is, which is more traumatizing, arguably, than, none is better. You cannot say that rather have died than disappearing unknowingly. But all these things are playing out. Do we sit around from where you stand and in the spaces you agitate for justice, and appropriate medical and legal and also psychological support for the victims? In the spaces where we are, is there, because earlier on in the day we were talking about the root cause.
Yeah.
Is there a conversation on the root cause that if only we applied the law, if only we upheld the Constitution, some of these excesses by our security agencies would not play out? Is that conversation happening?
Unfortunately, it's not happening. As I mentioned earlier, compensation is only one tenet of reparation. And perhaps to most of us in this space, it is actually the minimal, the smallest tenet of reparation. One of the tenets of reparation is satisfaction, that this person have healed. Someone has stood outside there and say that we acknowledge the mistake that was done and it's not going to repeat itself again. The other one is in terms of rehabilitation. That fine, these people were injured either physically or psychologically, and they will be able to be rehabilitated, to be supported both medically and psychologically to heal. Okay? And the other one is restitution, that you return these people to the state that they were before. But when you come to the compensation, which is okay, but I say it is the least of the reparative mechanisms, is because there is a tendency for the state and the security operatives, and we can see it's happening now, to say that after all, I can kill you and pay you off. I can injure you and I'll still pay you off. You saw yesterday they released around 348 million, allegedly. It's not yet proven yet to some people. But then who are again the people? They are saying that fine, you are injured, I shot you in the leg and I'm giving you 50,000 shillings. If you come out, I will shoot you again in the other leg and I will give you another 50,000 shillings. But where is this money coming from? One of the things that the state must remember, and the Kenyans must remember, that this is not the government's money. It's the taxpayers' money. So I sit here today, contribute the taxes that will again pay Dennis tomorrow when he's shot in the leg, and someone will say, I'll just take this money and then pay off. The other element, the compensation that we are worried of, is using the compensation as a political tool. Working out politics. That fine, we came to this region, we came to Mathare, we infringed on the rights of those people in Mathare, but we have paid you off. Hapo Mathare tumewapatia shilingi milioni 100. Imesaidia hawa watu. And that is a worry. That we should not be using this compensation as a way of saying that after all, I may not need to adhere to the law. I'm able to pay you off and then it goes.
One asks the question, from where is it I said? The person who shot me, killed me, injured me, gave the order, cannot be the very same person as well who comes up with a decision on what fits me, how much they will pay me, without the promise of it not happening again. Because then you become the judge, the executioner, the jury, all these things lumped together. Because where even protesters sit today, why there is even all this conversation, is because on one hand, shoot on the head, shoot to kill, shoot on the leg, right? Yes. On the other hand, I am sorry, we shot you, we will pay you off. But then again, your luminaries are again seeing you can come protest, but you can't really guarantee what will happen to you. Are we really being honest when we talk about the constitution, which is here and everybody is under here? Others have taken it in reverse. But are we really serious or intentional in just respecting the law?
And that's what I was mentioning, that you're saying that we acknowledge the fact that we infringed on your right to go outside there and protest. That infringement led to your death, it led to your physical injury, it led to your mental disability, or things like that. But again, you're saying, on 25th, on Thursday, musijaribu kukanyaga street, and you have seen that. Musijaribu kwenda kuprotest. Na watu wenye mtaprotest shauri yenu. And I think you saw an MP from Molo, I think he's the chairman of the finance bill, showing that the Shasha thing, the Mapangale thing. He's just simply telling you, we'll just do the same. And I will go to that budget committee or that finance committee and still allocate you money to pay you for the damages or the injuries that will happen. And that is the kind of impunity that we are seeing right now. So there's no level of accountability that we are seeing with this with the leadership, with the security operatives that's happening right now. And that's it's a very worrying trend.
And from where you sit, would we be in order to interpret compensation as an act of admission of guilt?
It is.
And then if it is an admission of guilt, it would mean somebody committed an offense, a crime. But we don't hear of that. Now you hear of cases collapsing in court one arm of government, but the other arm of government has provision for compensation. So no one is held accountable, as you're saying. No one can answer for the criminality that happened, but someone else is paying for the same criminality, or rather they're providing resources for that. This imbalance. And then on the other hand, the other person is threatening you not to show up. Because the same person who has not been held accountable, who shot or harmed or injured, is still out in the streets.
Yes, and the last time I was on this show, and this is what we were explaining, that there's a lot of interdependence with some of these constitutional offices that work within the justice sector, especially the judiciary, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the IPOA, and then the DCI who do the investigations. You may need to note that even when the IPOA are doing this investigation, they rely heavily on the evidence that will be provided by the National Police Service. The so-called perpetrators, the accused, the suspects.
Supposed to report themselves.
They are supposed to report, to investigate and give them some of this evidence they are supposed to present to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. So at the end of the day, there's a lot that is lost in here. And then the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, of course, has that mandate, the decision to charge. They decide whether they want to charge or not. Again, people will question the independence of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution in some of these matters. And on the fact that even that evidence that the IPOA presents, again, comes from the DCI. The people who have the monopoly of owning the forensics laboratories are the DCI. And they're the ones who will give you evidence on whether the ODPP will be able to proceed with these cases or not. So at the end of the day, the common mwananchi here who is aggrieved remains in limbo. You are just in between, you're being tossed around. And you have got no guarantee or no right to say that this is how you're going to deal with this thing moving forward.
Well, there's a lot to continue going through. The day that we have ahead of us tomorrow will prove certain things, but that the fight can't stop, that's for sure, and it's always for the people. Thank you so much for joining us in the Situation Room this morning. Simon Malenya is the technical lead advocacy and treaty bodies with IMLU.
Perhaps before we close, just to inform Kenyans that to remain peaceful when they are protesting, be unarmed, and just follow the directions that are given by the security operatives. Remain safe. Remain safe
over and above everything else. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and thank you for being in the Situation Room this Wednesday. Sugar and Spice comes up at 11 o'clock, and she's asking a question today. Is AI making people lazy? You want to tune in with Yolanda at 11. Thank you for being here in the Situation Room. Asante sana, Joe. We'll talk soon. Good morning, everybody.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.